environment are being discussed at the Arctic Days Forum here in Moscow. Russia's showing huge interest in the region. A new Russian military garrison called Polar Star opened a month ago. Primetime's Alexander Abmanets talked to the director of the Norwegian Polar Institute to find out why the Arctic is key to the world's future.
Dr. Winther, thanks so much for joining us today. Now, you've been working as an Arctic scientist for 25 years now. Tell me, has the Arctic somehow changed within this period of time?
Well, I am still a relatively young man, but I have become an eyewitness to the changes. When I go back to the same areas where I did my PhD 25 years ago, the landscape has changed quite dramatically. The glaciers have retreated, the sea ice is not forming in the winter anymore, and we know that, of course, also from statistics and satellite images.
The Arctic is probably the most graphic example of the climate change, so what should be done to stop it?
The only way to tackle the warming in the Arctic is to reduce the global emissions. Now, a very interesting thing is that while we are affected by the outer world in the Arctic change is also affecting back again. Through teleconnections in the atmosphere.
How does climate change affect other regions on the globe except for the Arctic itself?
In a way, the Arctic speaks with the rest of the world. So when we have melting sea ice in the Arctic and warming, it affects, for example, precipitation and temperature, low and high pressure systems. Many places could be affecting the monsoon. There has been shown that it was likely that the changes in the Arctic had some effect on Katrina and Sandy. So there are these long-range connections that makes the Arctic region especially important.
Do you support the activity of eco-organizations and mainly Greenpeace who are protesting against drillings in the Arctic?
Well, let me answer this way. The world needs fossil fuel still for some time. And we have resources in the Arctic, oil and gas. At the same time, the world faces a very strong, challenging problem with climate change. So there is a need to phase out fossil fuels and have a greener energy mix. And also going from coal, oil to gas is also one important shift that will make the energy mix better when it comes to a climate perspective. So we need to work along these lines.
What natural resources are we talking about when it comes to the Arctic?
We have rich minerals, not only oil and gas in the Arctic. We have fish. Tourism is also a sector, and then shipping that is very unpredictable how the markets in Asia and Europe will communicate in the future, maybe also through a polar route. It could be a Northern Sea route or even a more trans-polar route in the future. So economy is, of course, a strong driver to the changes and increased activity in the Arctic.
The Arctic tourism, has it really become an industry?
Compared to petroleum, fishery and shipping, it's low. It's not a big industry, no. But it's increasing and it has a potential. There are so many areas of the world that tourists have experienced and explored, so they are looking to new places, and both the Antarctica and the Arctic is very attractive for many tourists, but it's still a small